Welcome to our channel. For more information about diet, please click the first link in the description. Obesity is intimately associated with chronic inflammation, which increases the risk of developing chronic non-communicable diseases. Find out how to diet to treat inflammation, lower risk factors, and improve your health. When approaching chronic diseases associated with inflammation, it is necessary to adopt a diet that supports treatment. So, be aware that some foods can be harmful while others have beneficial properties. How to diet for inflammation? Find out now. For starters, chronic non-communicable diseases, CNCDs, have a common origin: inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the main pathogenic factor in metabolic disorders that increase the likelihood of developing chronic degenerative pathology. More primarily, inflammation is a key element in the pathogenesis of endothelial dysfunction as well as in atherosclerosis. Therefore, dieting for inflammation is one of the mainstays for the prevention and treatment of this type of diseases. According to the study by Strowig T et al. In 2012, acute inflammation is a biological response to infection or tissue damage to initiate healing and repair of vascular tissue. The clinical signs that characterize it are heat, reddening, and pain. These are produced by factors such as cytokines, chemokines, reactive oxygen species, and coagulation factors. Although acute inflammation is characterized by its defensive reaction character, when it persists for a prolonged period, it becomes a chronic problem. Inflammation contributes to the pathogenesis of multiple diseases, according to a study published in the journal Current Topics in Behavioral Neurosciences. This is done through the regulation of transcription factors, and primarily tumor necrosis factor, NFKB, and members of the interferon regulatory factor, IRF, family that trigger the expression of inflammatory, immune, and antiviral genes. The expression of genes and the increased production of pro-inflammatory substances are proportionally related to the amount of adipose tissue in humans and animal models. Therefore, in individuals with obesity, we speak of the presence of sustained and chronic inflammation, which contributes to the pathogenesis of the host. These alterations mainly include damage and sensitivity to the action of insulin, pancreatic beta cell dysfunction, non-alcoholic liver disease, and atherosclerosis. According to the World Health Organization, WHO, in 2017, obesity, defined as an excess of abnormal adiposity that can be harmful to health, reached incidence proportions comparable to an epidemic during these years. Last decades. Obesity is associated with multi-organic alterations of an inflammatory nature with a chronic impact on the metabolic level, mainly pancreatic, adipose, hepatic, cardiac, and musculoskeletal. These alterations, taken together, define the metabolic syndrome. The metabolic syndrome has a multifactorial origin. Nevertheless, the environment in which each individual develops will determine the expression of genes with their respective metabolic alterations. To speak of the environment means to speak of food. A diet high in fats of animal origin and processed products with a high content of sugars and with a low consumption of vegetables and fruits is associated with excess weight, increased glucose in the blood pressure, among others. Numerous studies, such as the one published in the International Journal of Molecular Sciences by Tutolomando et al. In 2019, highlight the important role of eating patterns in preventing the risk of developing disease, treating it, or reducing mortality. The Mediterranean diet has been studied extensively because of its impact on reducing inflammation biomarkers. This is the case with hyperinsulinemia, hyperglycemia, dyslipidemia, central adiposity, arterial hypertension, among others. According to Sears B. et al. In 2015, dieting for inflammation involves the following things: omega-3 fatty acid supplementation, between 2 to 3 grams of eicosapentaenoic and docosahexaenoic acid per day. Calorie restriction with an adequate balance between the main nutrients, carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Calculation carried out by a nutritionist. Include plants rich in bioactive compounds, known as polyphenols, which are responsible for inhibiting the NFKB transcription factor. These changes will have an impact on the removal of genes that are responsible for the production of pro-inflammatory substances. This is more particularly the case of those present in chronic inflammation. They will also activate the AMP kinase signaling pathway. This complex acts as a cell energy detector and helps in energy balance as well as in the consumption of calories.